The night was restless. Flashing red and blue lights painted the empty streets of downtown Chicago, echoing against the tall glass buildings. Sirens screamed like wounded wolves tearing through the silence of the midnight air. A man ran, his breath ragged, his legs trembling, his eyes wild with desperation. His clothes were torn, his shoes barely holding together, but he didn't stop. Behind him, 3 police cruisers roared forward, their tires screeching on the wet asphalt. "Stop! Police!" The commanding voice of Officer Daniel Carter boomed through the loudspeaker. But the man didn't stop. He couldn't. Clutching a small black backpack against his chest, he darted into a narrow alleyway, knocking over trash cans and scattering stray cats in his wake. The echo of his heartbeat was louder than the pounding boots chasing after him. To the world, he was just another thief. Another criminal. Another face in the news. But inside his chest burned a truth no one else knew. This wasn't just about survival. This was about his daughter. And in that single moment, as the police closed in from every direction, he realized, tonight wasn't about running away. It was about changing everything. His name was Ethan Miller, once a hard-working father, a man who had spent years breaking his back in construction sites, dreaming of giving his little girl, Emily, a better future. He was the kind of man who skipped meals so his daughter could eat, who worked double shifts while his body screamed for rest. But life wasn't fair. 6 months ago, Emily had fallen sick. What started as a fever turned into something much darker. Doctors spoke of a rare condition. A treatment existed, but it was far too expensive. Insurance refused to cover it. Ethan tried everything, extra shifts, loans, begging banks. But doors kept slamming shut in his face. "Daddy, am I going to be okay?" Emily would whisper, her small hand clutching his calloused fingers. And Ethan would smile, even as tears burned his eyes. "Of course, sweetheart. Daddy will fix everything." But behind closed doors, he broke. He screamed into pillows, he punched walls until his knuckles bled, he prayed for a miracle. That miracle never came. So one night, when desperation pushed him to the edge, Ethan made a choice. A choice the world would label a crime. He stole. Not for himself. Not for greed. But for the little girl lying in a hospital bed, waiting for her father to come back with hope. Back in the present, Ethan's lungs burned as he ran across the wet pavement. The backpack he carried wasn't filled with jewels or gold, it carried bundles of cash. Enough, perhaps, to pay for Emily's first round of treatment. Cut him off at Monroe Street. Officer Carter barked into his radio. The cruisers moved like predators circling prey. Ethan turned a corner, only to find 2 more officers closing in. His chest tightened. The walls of the city seemed to trap him from every side. He darted into an abandoned parking garage, his footsteps echoing. The darkness swallowed him whole. He crouched behind a concrete pillar, trying to quiet his ragged breath. "Where are you, thief?" a voice called, footsteps drawing closer. Ethan closed his eyes. He thought of Emily's smile, the way she laughed when he lifted her onto his shoulders. He thought of the way she once whispered, "You're my hero, Daddy." And a voice inside him whispered, "Heroes don't run forever." The officers found him. "Freeze." Carter's gun was trained on him, unwavering. Ethan raised his hands slowly, the backpack still slung over his shoulder. His eyes were not filled with defiance, but with pain. "Please, just listen," Ethan pleaded, his voice cracking. "This isn't what it looks like. I'm not a bad man." "You robbed a bank," Carter snapped. "You endangered lives." "I did it for her," Ethan whispered, tears now streaming down his dirt-streaked face. He pointed to his chest. "My daughter. She's dying. The system, it doesn't care." I begged. I prayed. No one helped. What was I supposed to do? Just watch her fade away. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Even the officers hesitated. Because in Ethan's eyes, they didn't see a criminal. They saw a father. Carter lowered his weapon slightly, though procedure screamed at him not to. He had seen criminals his whole life, liars, manipulators, men who would say anything to escape. But Ethan was different. Carter thought of his own daughter sleeping at home, safe and healthy. What would he have done if her life hung in the balance? Duty chained him. But humanity pulled harder. "Sir," one of the younger officers whispered. "Maybe we should check his story. What if he's telling the truth?" Carter clenched his jaw. Rules were rules. But for the first time, he wasn't sure if following them was the right thing. Life is full of battles. Some we fight against the world. Some we fight against ourselves. And some, like Ethan's, are fights for love, the kind of love that makes you break walls, cross lines, and risk everything. If you're listening to this story right now, remember. Everyone you see is fighting a battle you don't know about. Show compassion. Show kindness. Because one act of understanding can change a life. Glowing star. And if stories like these inspire you, reminding you that humanity still exists even in the darkest corners, then be part of this journey. Subscribe. Because together, we can spread hope where the world only sees crime. The police brought Ethan into custody. The money was confiscated. His fate seemed sealed. But word spread. A reporter caught wind of his story. Soon, the world knew not of a thief, but of a father pushed beyond his limits by a broken system. Strangers began to rally. Donations poured in. A campaign started, "Help Emily Live." And for the first time in months, Ethan's tears were not of despair, but of hope. Inside the jail cell, Carter visited him. "You'll face charges," Carter admitted, his voice softer now. "But because of you, your daughter might get a chance." Ethan clasped his hands, whispering, "Thank you. That's all I ever wanted." Weeks later, Emily received her treatment. Her tiny smile returned, her laughter filling hospital halls. And though Ethan sat behind bars, he carried peace in his heart. Because sometimes, being a hero doesn't mean wearing a badge or a cape. Sometimes, it means being a father who never gives up. And to everyone hearing this story, remember, life will push you, break you, and test you. But never forget why you fight. Your struggles, your scars, your sacrifices, they can become the very reason someone else finds hope. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, don't just walk away. Like this, share it, and comment your thoughts. And most importantly, subscribe, not just for stories, but for reminders that the world still holds unseen battles, unexpected heroes, and untold hope. Sparkles.